Hi there, Pisces. Thank you so very much for tuning in. This is your mid-September reading. Let's get right into it. Pisces, now, the theme here for you is doing things differently. Okay, doing things differently. And there's a focus on doing. There's a focus on the conceptualization of this doing, of this action. Okay, and the steps that lead to the sort of greater expression of planned efforts. But there is a sort of conceptualized stage here, okay, that almost rides in tandem with your actions. And it requires of you to consider closely the ways in which you view and perceive the actions that you are to take. There's a great focus on the conceptuality, okay, of planning. And I'm hearing this foray into the masses. Let's get a few cards out here. Okay. And before we read these off, I'll read off all the cards to you that popped out when I was shuffling off camera. The 10 of Wands upright, the 6 of Pentacles upright, the Father of Swords in reverse, okay, the 8 of Swords upright, and the Daughter of Wands in reverse, right into the base, okay, of this arc of energy. Now, what just popped out is the 5 of Swords upright, the Empress, okay, and the 4 of Swords in reverse. Interesting because it is the third card in the Major Arcana deck, the Empress, and the 4 of Swords. So there's a bit of a sequence here happening, absolutely, and we will keep that. Let me make room here so we can get it called. I'm not in my usual recording quarters, so there's a bit of a change in atmosphere here. It's a transitional time, so just in case you may be wondering, that does not look like the backdrop. Okay, you've got here the Lovers. Okay. See that? Lovers overlaying the Mother of Swords upright, both upright. And there's a centrality to these two cards, absolutely. And these two cards popped out for Capricorn. And they were right on top of each other. So we keep that. There seems to be some overlay with Capricorn. Take it as you will. If you know Capricorn, if you have some Capricorn energy in your chart, strongly placed, prominently placed, as a moon rising, ascendant sign, or by way of a very strong 10th house or Saturn placement, then right, that may be coming through for you. But it may be pertaining to an individual with a lot of Capricorn energy in your chart. The Lovers is Gemini's card. Okay, very interesting. Now, you have your Temperance in reverse at its wit's end, looking over at this 8 of Wands. A shake-up is needed, change and transformation is needed, but this focus is on how do I conceptualize and make official the concept of what I'm doing. The concept, how do I put it into words? I'm hearing, how do I pack it in? I'm hearing jam-pack. How do I make it, I'm hearing commercial in a way. Commercial, something that is, I'm hearing audible, something that others can perceive. Okay, and there is this waiting, I'm hearing this surmounting pressure, the desire to make change, tremendous change. Let's see what this is all about. I'm seeing Scorpio and Cancer at the same time, so basically take it as you will here. Now, yes, there is a question of the concept, okay, of the frame of reference for our work. What are we creating under? I'm hearing. What are we creating under? What are we creating within, even? And where does it lead me? This understanding, right, of perception. I'm hearing of the quality of the work that I do. I want to come to terms with it in a very clear way. I know that there is a way to put a finger on it. Right? There is an X that marks the spot, but what is that X? Where does it lie on the lands that I know I am to be traversing? Now, it's very interesting. You have a lot of overlap with Scorpio, Pisces, a lot of overlap with Scorpio. You have the Two of Swords upright, overlaying the Six of Swords in reverse. And Capricorn's coming through for you strongly again. Pisces, Scorpio pulled the Two of Swords and the Six of Swords as well. Okay, and the Five of Cups as well, which you have sitting upright beneath the Six of Swords. Losing my voice there, but I'm going to say it like this. Pisces. The energy that speaks to this sort of scorpionic energy, scorpionic reference, okay, of an archetype is happening in your theme. Okay, the other energies that are showing up here are some overlap with Capricorn. Okay, but you have many points of reference. It's almost as if there's a novel of an experience that you're experiencing, and there are cornerstones of, I'm hearing, evidence of the experience as a whole. And those characters all in a certain way must abide by one another. And there are certain measures and variables that you have to take into consideration to ensure that the whole plot, right, I'm hearing, flows smoothly in the way that you know, in a discernible way, right, in a rational, logical, sort of organized way, is to make sense. Right? So I'm getting that the concepts you're working with, it's like almost as if someone came to you and was like, ta-da! Okay, this is the punch. We're gonna give you 4 completely different characters. They're gonna be wearing completely different outfits, and they're gonna have different, I'm hearing like voice tones, different levels of voice. They're going to have I'm hearing different climate. They're going to be climatized differently. Right? They thrive in certain environments more than others. Okay, they're going to be completely different, and it's up to you. Okay, and it's almost like it's like a puzzle. It's up to you. I'm hearing Scorpio and Cancer specifically at this time to make them dance together. And I'm hearing waltz, to make it look almost seamless. How do I make these parts, right, flow in their greater locomotion? And I know, as anomalous and as varying as they may seem from one another within the context of one another, and relative to one another, I also know that they are inherently complements. And it's up to me to find that suit that fits them all in terms of why they're even on stage. So there is a fabrication of resources, there's a fabrication of effort, there's a streamlining of the purposefulness of and all of what's involved with what you're doing. And you recognize that everything has to come together, everything has to string together. And it's the question of just with clarity how is it all going to happen? So I'm hearing the rhythm of the dance. What is the rhythm of the dance going to be? Now, for a number of you, okay, very interesting, because as well, right here with the Four of Swords, it's mirroring the Five of Swords, 4, 5 swords in sequence, sandwiching 3 of the third major arcana in the deck, the Empress. Okay, that's Aries' card, by the way. Fusion between fire energy and, as I perceive it, specifically for you, water energy. Now I'm hearing the Empire of our domain. The Empire of our domain. And I'm hearing the quality of our work, how the quality of our work constitutes how we feel we fit in a certain way within this grander landscape of creation. And I'm hearing it vitality. So it's not only about resources, it's about how you see yourself within the context of the resources that you make use of to create your world. And how that whole process, right, brings together the parts of what you're working with, the resources, the literal resources, but how it, right, in its grander scope, brings you together, Pisces. So it's like it's an echo chamber. Okay, it's like a doubling over effect. Something about double. Okay, but in terms of not just like one half and another, working together, it's like a Russian doll effect. So you're living through what it is that almost creates your living. You're living through creation. And it's that living embodiment of you that creates the world that you see yourself in. It's very interesting, Pisces. It's very, very interesting. But I'm hearing there's a crystallization of efforts. There's an understanding of where all of this is going. Not only going as a discombobulated, sort of separation from the self. It's not like it's an extremity, okay, from you as the creator. You understand, okay, that it's all purposeful. And it's all a reflection of me. And therefore, why I am purposeful in what I do, and how what I do holds purpose and value, and that is seen through my work. And I need to hone in on exactly what these varying purposes are. These varying purposes are, and how they work together and connect as a network of meaning. Okay, so you're seeing, I'm hearing the value, you're seeing through the parts, okay, that are played. And there's a question, okay, of emotional satisfaction. Absolutely, there's a question of emotional satisfaction. And you recognize that aspect of your world, through whatever it is that you create, cannot be sacrificed. Okay, that's something very, very important in terms of emotional satisfaction and a feeling that you are sort of free to explore the recesses of your mind. Okay, and to explore what your very personal philosophy is and your very personal truth. And you need the room to grow, Pisces. You need the room to grow, to spread your wings and just transform, so that your work too can transform. Right, by way of reshaping the concept of your actions. Yet again, you reach this point, okay, of discovering the actions that you want to take. So there's this focus on first prioritizing, I need to be open to see things in a different light. And to do that, right, to even conceptualize the capacity, the actions that I want to take, right? In terms of specifically planning as I'm feeling it for you, I've got to completely open myself to the possibilities. I've got to release myself from this old world and way of thinking about even myself, how I see myself as the creator of what I create, and understand that I must undergo a process of transformation to see my work transform. So it's this chrysalis effect, and a crystallization that comes not by way of first the rationality, first the clarity, but by way of the release. I'm hearing in tandem the release, and as you release, this emotional release, okay, and as you, I'm hearing as well vulnerability, the surrender, opening yourself to feel, the capacity to feel yourself through yourself, as you find yourself over and over and over again in the places that you thought you would never find yourself. You discover at that point the unknown, the crux, what it is that has confounded you, that you understood. It's not how I think it is. It's not how I expect it to be, and I know that. What is it going to be? How is it going to be? And so there's this referencing of the emotional capacity, and I remember that this came through for you, Pisces, and you're in Cancer and Capricorn. Okay, so Cancer wants to speak to you very strongly. Okay, but and be it like if that's an energy just within your own chart, but Pisces, there is this emotional dimension that's referenced, okay, very strongly, almost not as a peripheral sort of focus point, but as I'm hearing riding in tandem with whatever this greater process is. Your emotional life is ever and ever most relevant to the material, tangible, physical dimension of what you're creating. So you're recognizing just how important just the discovery process of what allows you to feel and you're discoverable. priority. I'm hearing emotions take equal measure. Emotions take equal measure, and so this emphasis, okay, on the emotional clarity, the emotional release is prominent here. Now, there may be a certain element of knowing, right, how you feel, knowing what serves you, right, environmentally, contributes positively to your emotions. But there's this question of, again, clarity of how we are to come to terms with this knowing, how we are to really, I'm hearing, bring the cycle full circle in terms of acting on what it is that we know feeds us emotionally in a positive way, and what right, feeds, I'm hearing, the fire, feeds the, even I'm hearing the questioning, the certain form of perhaps questioning of emotional truth, and what environment really does it for us. I feel that you know, intuitively, especially you know, Pisces, but it's a matter, yet again, of surrendering to it, okay, completely surrendering to it. And that is the point that we find, okay, transmutes this past of any kind of perhaps emotional dissatisfaction, feeling a form of stagnancy. And you have two fives here, the Five of Cups, the Five of Swords. You have the Ten of Wands, okay. You've got the Ace of Wands, beautiful, sitting right beneath the Nine of Swords, with the Daughter of Cups sitting right beneath the Ace of Wands. I do feel that that is you, Pisces, and this is all happening in your future. Okay, this energy is happening in your future. You have the Nine of Swords in reverse. I'd like to see that, okay, because what I'm getting is, and there may be, for a number of you, an individual involved. It, again, could be your very own propensity aside to you, okay, that you perhaps have been grappling with. But I'm feeling for a number of you, large number of you, that you may be dealing with a certain individual who confounds you. Okay, who confounds you, who on one hand gets you, and who you get fundamentally, and very closely, in the ways that you only got together by way of intimacy, okay? Take it as you will, right? That can be many different things, and speaking to energy as well, but, and spirituality, okay? But what I'm getting is that, in terms of the logistics, okay, of this individual, how they may present themselves in terms of, in a logical way, it's confounding. It's confounding. And there's a recognition that I'm hearing there's more brewing beneath the surface, and I'm hearing it only continues, and it only continues, and it only continues. And you're recognizing whoever and whatever this individual is, it embodies as them. It's a matter of my doing and my acting within the grander scope of my endeavors as who I am. So there's this almost this ping pong effect, okay, where you, whatever it is that confounds your logical rational mind, you're recognizing it's not necessarily about making the sense of it. It's a matter of how it too plays a part, right? So this may be sort of one of the characters. I'm hearing anomaly. It's a very, very sort of strange situation, as you may feel it, as you may sense it. It may have been going on for a long time, right? Marrying the Ten of Wands. But in a certain way, it's caused you to think, to almost build upon this force, I'm hearing, of recognition, of recognizing force. I'm hearing of recognizing matter, material assets as well. I'm hearing that for you, and you have the Six of Pentacles, right next to the Father of Swords. There's been a growth, okay, by way of the channeling of this. I'm hearing confusion. Okay, so there's been a purpose to it, and you've understood that, Pisces, and I'm hearing for you, Scorpio here, and Cancer, yet again, coming strongly for you. There may be a Cancer and a Scorpio involved here, right? Or again, it could be your very own propensity. So whatever this, I'm hearing confounding idealism, whatever it was that just again, was sort of an anomalous experience, you recognize is part of, yes, the crux, but also part of the reason why I am experiencing this. So I'm getting that it's not like, why is this happening? I'm getting that it's like, this is happening, and this has many different sides to it. And it's not about isolating yet again the variables, and I'm getting a straining feeling in my left-hand thumb. Okay, it's not about trying to almost manipulate the understanding so that we can take the action with it. It's a matter of understanding just simply that everything that we may not understand within the context of each other, of one another, plays a part. And I'm the conductor, okay, of how I interpret. I'm hearing their cause, their causes for manifestation. So you're taking action on whatever it is that has confounded you in a very forthright way, in a very forthright way, in a way where you're seeing beyond what it is that you've experienced, Scorpio on a very similar energy, okay? And it shoots you right into a practicalism of how it is you want to transform and transmute and even translate this crux, this questioning of your belief system into something that is actually tangible. Okay, it's almost like, and I'm hearing material assets. How do I transform? How do I transform? And just keep saying Cancer. Okay, Cancer really wants to speak to you. Pisces. But Capricorn got a very similar sort of interplay between earth and water. Okay, those two elements. And in addition, Capricorn also got this interplay between the Devil card and very strongly intuitive energy, okay, specifically the Mother of Cups and the High Priestess. So, right, and they were mirroring one another, and this happened in your spread, if you do recall, in the September reading. So, it seems that Capricorn and Pisces have some sort of dialogue here, energetic dialogue, so you may want to check that video out, Pisces, but specifically for you, there's this channeling of this water energy, and not only literally the water energy, but the conceptualization of the emotional propensity into something that is actually in working order, I'm hearing, in working order. That is more, almost, I'm hearing it again from packageable for the masses. So, alright, now, and I'm hearing it's a translation of experience. Whatever it is that you've experienced is being channeled, absolutely channeled into the third dimension. And the more that you, I'm hearing, the more that you influence your realm of perception and experience of what is intangible, as, right, and into what exists within the third dimension, that leads you to refrain from this analysis paralysis, overthinking about it, this questioning, the literal questioning about what is, right, an anomaly, but also completely understood by you in a very deep way, in a very, very deep way. And so, it's almost like this. You feel something, and you're like, this feels weird. Okay, you're like, this feels like I'm existing in so many different dimensions. And I know what I'm experiencing in like a Neptunian way. and I know that there's a purpose to it, okay? But I'm not really quite putting my finger on the zinger with it, okay? Because the order of events, right, are set in such a way in this novel that I've made, where I've got, right, to channel. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing this inhibition, this natural inhibition, this I'm hearing this dichotomy of forces, the thing that just doesn't quite make sense in a literal way. I've got to present it as that. It doesn't necessarily have to be parsed out completely, right? Pulling every straw out of the straw hat. Like, it's a straw hat, and it's got to be a straw hat. And right, I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it. You have 2 sevens here, right? 7 of Cups, 7 of Pentacles, sitting right next to each other. I've got to just wear the straw hat. I'm going to embody the straw hat. And just doing that sheer acceptance, okay, of what this feeling is, resolves in a certain way. The expenditure of your energy into trying to force almost an understanding of what you know is multi-dimensional and true. Okay, so what is also isn't in Pisces, and you're accepting of that. You're accepting of that. In a very, it's like in a bombastic way. Okay, it's in such a way where you're seeing through it. Pisces, you're seeing through it. You're like, I don't need to, right? I know that the language that's being spoken, that I'm speaking with myself and the universe in a certain way is speaking with me, right? And of course, general reading Pisces, always take it as you will. Always heed your personal intuition, but I know that with the language that the universe is speaking with me, it's like I can't speak back to it in just any language. I'm here to make peace with it. I must understand that it is of its own kind, and that this form of communication, right, yes, is to be channeled, is to be understood in a certain way, but for what it is. And that is what you're doing. You're literally just translating. You're like, this may not make sense. It's almost like a Google Translate, right? It's like you put something into Google Translate, it's like something so wonky comes out. You're like, that's not right. I know that's not right. But that's what you're doing, Pisces, in a certain way, and getting that you're like, I'm translating it. And people can, right, see it for what they see it as. They can interpret it as what they interpret it as, but in a way, they're asking for the language. And this is what it is. And it's up to me to relay it in its most sort of authentic form, right? Without sacrificing the nature of it, even if the nature of it is confounding of the understanding of it. The understanding of it that is impossible in a certain way. The only point of understanding that's met, Pisces, I'm feeling it from a number of you, take it as you will, is the moment that I change how I expect to understand it. Okay. And so you're seeing through it, Pisces, whatever it was like, I'm trying to understand this, doesn't make sense. Math problem doesn't make sense. Like, I know there's an answer, it doesn't make sense. You're like, okay. This is how I need to go about it, right? This is, and it's taking on a very intuitive sort of nature, okay, where you're not interpreting it, you're literally feeling it now. Okay, I'm going to read them all off to you. You have the Nine of Wands in reverse, you have the Mother of Wands upright. You have the Daughter of Wands in reverse, which sits just at the apex of this Mother of Wands. Interesting, two court cards related to the fire element, and two court cards related to the air element, so a pair, and somewhat of a pair, somewhat of a complementary sort of energy with the fire. But the Father of Swords and Mother of Swords as well. Okay, now you have your very own card here, the Hanged Man, and this actually as well came out for Capricorn, so there's an overlay there, absolutely. But the Hanged Man in reverse, to which point the Hanged Man is sitting straight up in its grave, right? Like just eyes wide awake, like high alert. Let's get it done. Okay, let's. I'm ready. Okay, that's what is being recognized here in more ways than one, Pisces. Okay, you have the Wheel of Fortune, right, in your advice. And this is mirroring this Mother of Wands. Very interesting because, right, these two cards are both depicted by circularity, transformation, right? Mother of Wands coiled about her eggs, speaking of birth. And birth is a greatly transformative process, right? It brings upon us what is somewhat unknown, okay? And the Wheel of Fortune, right, inherently is experience of we surrender to the forces. You have the Ace of Swords in reverse in your future, the Justice card, Major Arcana is the Libera's card, in the Major Arcana deck, in reverse, sitting right next to the Ace of Swords. Okay, you're taking your time, Pisces, with any sort of speaking out about any sort of clearly discerned and very organized approach answer. Okay, if there's an answer that you've I'm hearing that has been confounding you yet again. There's been a sort of a one-way street, and you're like, where's that street? I'm ready to drive down it. You're like, in tandem with this recognition, okay, that it may not be just one street. It may not be a street. I need to see beyond, right? What it is that I'm experiencing altogether. Why am I in the car? Why am I driving? Right? Why do I feel that I need to drive? You're asking yourself all of these things, right? You're taking 5 steps back before I just start, and before I just lay it all out, before I define it clearly. I need to understand, right? Why even it's not clear to begin with. Okay, in a certain way. So now that is your point of clarity, almost, right? Just surrendering from the need for clarity as we may see it clarifies things. And so there's a question of, right, the left from the right, the yin from the yang, the black from the white. The answer. There's a question of that, absolutely, and perhaps there has been a question of that. What is the one right way? The one right way. And so instead of making this decision, you are standing, okay, for, I'm hearing, the inconsistency of this truth, of the experience. You are, yet again, you're representing it in its entirety, okay? And I'm hearing, I don't want to gloss over anything. I don't want to gloss over anything just for the sake of saying something, just for the sake of deciding something, just for the sake of saying it, right? That I've made the decision. So it's a righteous sort of energy for you, Pisces, or I said Aquarius, okay, and Libra, and this is Libra's card. And you have the Lovers here, it's Gemini's card. Strong air energy throughout. Father of Swords may be pertaining to an Aquarius individual for a number of you, okay, but or the Mother of Swords as well for a number of you, but okay. Now I'm getting that in the past there was this period of revelation of the self, to the self, by the self. It's like a very introspective sort of hunkered down, okay, I'm hearing gallows, okay, sort of feeling like seeking greater insight, okay, from the places that, right, take us in a way to our depths. Pisces are depths, and you're recognizing I've needed to reach so deeply within, okay, to find my way out. Okay, I'm hearing of this palace, of this reign, and it hasn't been easy. Okay, it hasn't been easy, and I'm getting a sort of like a weathering. It's a weathering sort of process, and it's taken its toll. I'm hearing that, but it ultimately, right? That whole process, I'm hearing it weathered you to a certain point where you recognize I can take anything on, including what I thought that I couldn't take on, including, right, that which I thought was outside of me. Okay, and there's a recognition for you, Pisces, that I've got to come out of my box. I've got to come out of my box. And it's because I've spent so much time in the box, searching the box for, in a way, I'm hearing the rhyme and the reason why I'm in the box to begin with, that, right, I'm so ready now. I recognize that I'm so ready now. And that is the sheer point of the will of action, the desire to regain our balance, our grounds, to find the lands that suit us best for this next stage of our transformation. Where do I want to take it? Where am I going to lay these eggs? What is going to suffice this new beginning? And I'm seeing here in this deck the Fools just popping out for you here, right? Almost at the base. Okay, one from the base with the Chariot in reverse right beneath the Fool. Okay, Scorpio pulled the Chariot in reverse as well. Now, there's this impending action, this impending new beginning. You know it, Pisces, it's coming. But the question is, right, preparation. And there may be a focus on material assets, absolutely finances, an actual physical translocation, a move, absolutely with the Chariot there. But you're recognizing what it takes for you to come into your own. That is the recognition process. And it's by way of finding yourself physically through, I'm hearing, certain people, through certain places, through certain experiences in certain places with certain people, perhaps for a number of you, okay, that leads you to this point of transformation, finding what it is that makes you tick, what it is that makes you begin again. Begin the cycle again. What it is that drives you, compels you, I'm hearing tunes your frequency. You're finding what does it for you altogether, Pisces, and it's bringing it back to this question of, right, emotional satisfaction. I'm getting, there's a strong emphasis on that, strong emphasis on that. You're like, I need to find myself. Okay, by way of accepting the journey that's needed to find myself. Okay, and you have here the Wheel of Fortune in your advice, and it sits right diagonally from this Three of Pentacles, and there's somewhat of a similar energy here, same color tone scheme in these two cards. Right, and we see this stringing about of various colors that we too see here on the Three of Pentacles card. And the focus I'm getting here for you is on multidimensionality. Again, multidimensionality, and I'm getting like a mind, body, soul sort of focus here for you, and what it is that allows us to feel stable and at the same time open to what is created by way of stepping into what makes us feel stable. And this, yet again, maybe mind, body, soul. And I'm getting frequency specifically for you. So there's this embodiment, I'm hearing, of purpose, embodiment of wholeness and completeness. And you're being beckoned, Pisces, to remain open. Okay, as grounding as right, this experience may be, as grounding as this process may feel, to remain open to where this process of achieving stability takes you almost even in perhaps a direction that you may never expect. Right? So it's almost like I came here to plow these 3 stables. Okay, I'm hearing stables for you. I came here to plow these 3 stables. And, right, my expectation, right, it's like I showed up, I arrived to fulfill and complete this task in a certain way. It's like a task, like it's a form of expected work, I'm hearing, in labor, workforce. Okay, but where that leads you ultimately, okay, you're being beckoned, Pisces, to leave the door open. Right, it's like, I thought that I was just going to do that and then go home, right? That would be it, and then I would, right, arrive the next day, right, and maybe do it again. But, right, maybe on that one day, there's something that comes up, and you're offered to go and, right, here, check out a venue, check out another venue, another musician, okay, for a number of you, and it's like, right, I'm hearing that song, it's like, anything can happen, something like that, okay, there's a question of, right, I showed up to, and, right, but I'm remaining aware that there's not all to what I'm doing that I see. And that what I see is not all that there is to what I'm doing. And the moment, right, that I'm here to raise awareness that you may not realize in this very moment what comes is when it all, I mean, the clarity of the parts come together and the show goes on. It's so beautiful, Pisces. The sun is shining so brightly for you here. How beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of September. I'll be back soon with your October readings, okay? I almost said August, so that may be a focus point for you. August, we are just at the tail end of this Mercury retrograde shadow period that's lasting until the 19th, so there may be something from the time period of August, that comes about, and perhaps billabongs to the, or boomerangs rather, to the time frame of October. So take it easy, well, Pisces. Thank you so very much again for tuning in. I know some of you have been asking if I do any personal readings and the like. I do. I have personal services, including full-length astrology reports. Okay, so if that's something of interest to you, I focus in those reports elemental composition and balance, and the things that help bring you into that balance, and certain elements of the birth chart that accentuate certain propensities. So any sort of latent talents, gifts, things like that. If that's of interest to you, specifically for soul path, calling, career, then I have that service on my website. It's called the Astrological Interpretation Report. Okay, and otherwise I do readings as well, so feel free to check out the website, www.alchemyu.com, and we can read more about the services there. Alright, but nonetheless, thank you so much again for tuning in, Pisces, and I highly recommend you to check out your rising ascendant or moon sign as well, as oftentimes those may provide you with further insights into your situation. For example, I know that I resonate a lot with my moon, even more than my sun sometimes. I also resonate with my ascendant here and there. So feel free to check your placements out. I have a link in the bio. If you don't know your sign placements in your chart, you can click the link below in the description box that I provide, and it'll take you there. Alright, thank you so very much again, Pisces, for tuning in. Have a beautiful rest of September, and I will see you soon. Bye.